Hey everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to recap episodes 3 and 4 from Surviving R.Kelly. So if you are interested in getting my thoughts and opinions on these next 2 episodes, by all means stay tuned. But before you move on, get all cozy, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also click the notification bell so you don't miss another video from your girl. And again, I instruct everybody where this button is located every single time. It's right there. So go ahead and click it. Alright, so we're going to start off with episode 3, and episode 3 goes in talking about the sex tape scandal. That was the name of it. So kind of briefly going into episode 2 ends off with, discovering Sparkle's niece and, dealing with Lisa Van Allen? Was that her name? Yeah, Lisa Van Allen, and kind of connecting them two. So Lisa at this point is questioning R.Kelly's motives because now things are starting to become a little weird for her. Go figure. So once she finds out, because she was doing some things with the 14-year-old, and once she found out, because she thought that the Sparkle's niece was 16 when she was 17, where I guess in her mind she felt like, okay, well, since we're so close in age, what we're doing is not too bad, even though, this dude is old as dirt. At least her and I, that's how it's going off in my head. At least those two are close in age and all is well. But when she finds out that the 16-year-old is not 16 and now is 14, she's like, okay, this is a problem. So she kind of, cut all ties and said that she wasn't going to do it. At least that's how my notes go. And I had mentioned in my last video, she also talks about, things would go down when Andrea, however you say her name, R.Kelly's ex-wife, was in the house, which I don't understand how all of these things are going on in the house. And this is something that R.Kelly would have to answer. So how does your wife know that you're doing stuff with other women in the house? Like, that doesn't add up to me. But let's just go with what they're saying. So at this point, and Andrea pops up, she said that she denies seeing other women, denies that he abused other people in front of her. She stated that she wished she would have seen his behavior before all this, so then she would know what she was dealing with. I'm still trying to understand how she didn't know that so many other things was going on in her house other than the abuse that she was dealing with. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. So, she calls him a monster, this, that, and the third. But yet, and I did mention this in my first video, she goes on Facebook, she defends him, he's family, regardless of his past, you can't deny the musical genius, blah, blah, blah. And again, people keep defending that, oh, well, people deal with drama differently, this, that, and the third. I get it, but don't get it, if that makes any sense. I don't know what it's like to be abused, so I don't know how I would respond to it, but I'm pretty sure the average individual is not going to go on Facebook praising their abuser. I don't think anyone really does that. So Lisa is now talking about how she's being filmed and that R.Kelly never asked if it was okay that he could film her, but never hid the fact that he was filming. Like, he just pulled, the camcorder out, and it was never a dispute. She wasn't okay with it, but didn't say nothing either, and nor did he ask. So I guess it was one day where R.Kelly had left, a duffel bag full of, I think that's how it went down. Well, just left videotapes of all his foolery in the room wherever she was residing. And then she came across a tape of her and the 14-year-old and decides to hold on to it. So in the next scene, Dum Dum Demetrius comes up, and he also confirms that R.Kelly would record his sexual acts. this dude is really telling on himself. Like, he knows what's going down. He just confesses that this dude records inappropriate, actions with other people, and he doesn't say absolutely anything. Not only did he forge documentation, not only did he get numbers from teenage girls, now he's stating that, yeah, there's actual evidence that this dude is recording, himself with teenagers, or at least with women, doing the do, whether it's consensual or not. I mean, there's so many, situations here that are questionable that he shouldn't have been doing. So Lisa, she gets a hold of this tape, and then she goes back to her hotel room. So I don't know if he would keep the girls at the house. There's so many questions. It's just like, I don't know how he operated his whole, situation. It was like, I guess the girls will stay at the house for a short period of time, then ends up at these hotels. I don't know if it was like, a certain time of the month, or, quarterly, where these girls will have to stay at a hotel room and not at the house. But I guess she had took the tape back to the house, and then to the hotel, and then she decides to give it to a friend to hold on to it because she didn't want him to get a hold of it. So apparently she gives the sex tape to somebody else, who decides to, benefit from it and make copies to let the whole world see that R. Kelly and this child are doing the do. So, Abden Palish, I think that's his name, from the Chicago Sun-Times, stated that he got a fax kind of giving him information that R. Kelly was doing some things that he shouldn't have, and also saying that there was some lawsuits going on. He has some psychological issues, and also there was a suicide attempt that I don't even think that anyone has ever heard of. So wherever he went, or whenever that went down, they definitely kept that under wraps, which is good, because no one should really know what mental instabilities that you have. So kudos to whatever facility he went to, because I don't remember hearing anything like that. So come to find out, this dude has had 5 to 6 figure settlements. And if you are settling with anybody, you're being accused for something, you don't want to take it to court, you're settling, that is admitting to guilt. So this is why this dude is only worth $1 million. He literally had to pay all these people off, the victims and their parents. So Lisa's back on the scene. So she decides to tell R. Kelly that she had took the tape, and I can't remember what transpired in that conversation, but he did have to pay $250,000 to get this tape back. At this point, it was like, why even pay anything? Damn good and well that someone has made copies of this tape. I mean, it literally went all over the place, made it on some of the bigger pornography platforms, and it's still out there. Images are still out there. So you wasted $250,000 for what? This dude wasn't bright whatsoever. So Lisa goes in, I guess, after, letting him know she was the one that took it. He's realizing that he is now in trouble. A lot of things are just not going his way. According to her, it appeared that, there was talks about, killing her off. So, I mean, you got him into trouble. You got him into trouble. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, clearly she's alive, and that's the part that I don't seem to understand. So if there was a lot of talks about, him threatening, or him being scary, or him doing whatever, like, he doesn't really do much. He's just a bunch of talk. I'm not saying that he wouldn't do anything. I mean, you don't want to put nothing past anybody. But he did a lot of talking. And Charlamagne, I heard him say the other day on the Breakfast Club that R. Kelly used to threaten him too. And it's just like, so he's doing all these idle threats. And it's like, for what? And why is everybody so scared of him? So Sparkle was called down to the Chicago Sun-Times. Is it called? The Chicago Sun-Times? Yeah, the Chicago Sun-Times, to identify her niece. I guess, word got out to them that that's who she was, to identify her niece. And I do recall, if I'm not moving a little too fast or whatever, so when she found out that her niece was on this tape, she didn't know how to tell her sister and her brother-in-law that, the niece was on the tape, blah, blah, blah. So she takes it to her brother. And I'm like, why would you just not go straight to the parents and tell the parents that, hey, your daughter is up here? Like, I feel like so much could have happened. And so I blame Sparkle too. Like, you didn't do nothing. You went to your brother, not the parent of the girl, to talk about, to say that she was on this tape. Like, why did you feel the need to skip over them? I don't get that part. So then this girl that's on this videotape, her friend shows up. I don't know why they called her in, but I guess she had to identify who her friend was too. So all these people are pointing out that this girl is who they say that she is, but she's not confessing that it's her. Her parents are not saying that it's her. They're all denying it. And so we're not getting anywhere. So I don't know if you guys remember, I said it in my first video. The Sergeant Conway has now become the coach. And he also had to identify this young lady, to where, again, I feel like he's also to blame. He watched this guy go in and out the school. Now he's a coach. Now you know that he's messing with one of your students. And did he go and say, hey, yeah, R.Kelly used to hang out at the school. I know this to be true because at the time I was a police officer and I watched him go in and out the school and I didn't say anything. Like, did you mention something then? Like, because I feel like this conversation right now that we're all having is so unnecessary, especially when you had a police officer right there who did absolutely nothing on several occasions. So the police officer keeps saying it feels so strange for him. It felt so strange for him to watch a grown man hanging out with high school girls. So what did you do, police officer? What'd you do? Oh, you continue to watch him hang out with high school girls. Got it. So at this point, Sparkle is feeling guilt because she feels responsible. She's the one that introduced her niece to R.Kelly, and now she's, I guess, feeling hopeless and feels like she has subjected her niece to the foolery, and she did. There's no way, and I think I said it in my first video, there's no way that Sparkle was at the studio amongst R.Kelly regularly and didn't see any of his behavior. And she also stated that, he wouldn't allow people to talk to her. So if you find all his movements strange, like, it made no sense for you to introduce your niece to him. So now that you know that he has had sex with your niece, you feel lost, you feel guilty, you're disconnected from your family or whatever have you. So, like, was it all worth it? And she ended her career. Like, I think the only song that I ever heard of Sparkle's was the duet she had with R.Kelly. So as I'm reading my notes, because I wrote them down as it was coming up on the screen watching this documentary. So where I am with it is that now the coach / police officer has to identify the girl. Everybody is identifying her at this point, and it just didn't go anywhere. So I just wanted to know, like, why is everybody trying to figure out who this chick is if she's not coming forward? I feel like everybody sat down, watched this tape, and where was the benefit? So now this tape has circulated through the Chicago Times, or whatever it's called, Sun Times. Everybody had to identify her. Now it's being sold at flea markets, and now it's on different pornography platforms. Like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And the sad part about when this was coming out, and now I'm just kind of skimming through stuff. When it came out, R.Kelly denied it was him. His brother got thrown in there somehow or whatever. They look nothing alike, nowhere near being, identical. And I guess his brother had played like his stunt double in certain videos. But when you have your back turned on maybe a side view or something to that effect, But when you can clearly see your face, like, how do you deny that? And how did his attorney, like, how do you even clean that up? But I don't think that he got acquitted based on him saying that it wasn't him. He got acquitted because because nobody was accusing him of doing anything. The 14-year-old never came up to say, yeah, it was me on the tape, and couldn't confirm the age. So no one could speculate how old this girl was just looking at the video. I mean, she might have looked young, but that's not really saying nothing. So the backup dancer, I don't even, I may have written down her name somewhere, but the backup dancer is now back. She's being asked how she found out about the tape. This heifer said it doesn't even matter. So I wonder if she was a person that had the tape and turned it in, or was she the person who recorded it? The conspiracy. Like, why wouldn't you disclose how you found out about the tape? And why are you so teared up about it? You had to have been involved. Either you, the cameraman, or the person that circulated the videotape to profit from it. Or it's just pure T guilt. Like, you watched it, you were in the room, you were doing something. Like, why are you crying? So Lisa Van Allen pops up on the scene, and she talks about how she got pregnant, and I guess R. Kelly wasn't a complete jerk about it. He asked her, what would she like to do about it, whether or not she want to keep it, abort it, whatever. She decided to abort it because she did not want to have a child by a person who has the potential to sexually abuse her daughter. So she was like, I'll just go ahead and do what I have to do. But if that thought process crossed your mind, it was like, so you're still with this person. How do you still lay down next to a person or still do whatever with the individual that you can't even trust with your child, or a child you guys might conceive together? This is where I start asking questions when it comes down to the victims, because it's just like, you're having all these thoughts, but yet you're still around. Like, or at least not saying anything. You guys have access to a telephone sometimes when you're not, on punishment, according to the interviews that I saw. And I think that they said a little bit of that on the Lifetime special, where, they did mention it, how they didn't get food, how they had their phone taken away and stuff like that. But you did have moments where you did have your cell phone, and there wasn't a cry for help to anyone, or again, no one called a hotline to say this guy is out here doing the absolute most. That's the stuff that I don't understand, because I feel like there were opportunities to kind of put him on blast without him really knowing that you put him on blast. So Demetrius comes back on the scene, and he talks about, yes, we all worked for him and he pretty much got everything that he wanted. You said that. Again, I feel like that's incriminating information. Like, it was nothing for you to sit here and say, yes, you also committed criminal acts just to please him. You did exactly what he said, and there was no hesitation. He was signing your check, so I guess you had to do what he wanted you to do, regardless of what it was. I pray at least that one goes down with him. If no one else goes down with R. Kelly, I hope that guy does. So episode 4 is the people versus R. Kelly. So this is when we're going to talk about the trial. And I don't think there's too much to really talk about here, because we already know what occurs. R. Kelly is charged with child pornography. He was charged with 21 counts. How do you get charged with 21 counts of child pornography and you don't get in trouble for not one? And so my understanding, after he gets charged with these 21 counts, dude went to jail, posted bail, and everything went back to normal. Like, he wasn't fazed nor bothered by anything. So then in 2003, he was arrested again for additional porn charges of child pornography. Police found photos of R. Kelly allegedly having sex with underage girls. So I wonder why that didn't go through. Like, if you see pictures of young girls with this dude, and you are a complete narcissist. Like, my thing is this. I don't know if you're a narcissist or just a plain idiot to take pictures, to do, to film yourself doing these things to these girls. And you must really think that you are untouchable to do so much. And I mean, but I guess apparently you didn't get in trouble for them. But you're not really scared of nothing. It's crazy. Like, I know they had to disclose that this man was charged with 21 counts of child pornography, and people still rock to his music, whether, acquitted or not. The fact that you are accused for child pornography, like, how do you get accused of child pornography? Like, where would the confusion come into play? I would love for someone to answer that. Like, how do you get accused for child pornography and not kind of side-eye it? So his ex-wife talks about how, she was so stressed, and I'm not rolling my eyes at the fact that she was stressed. So I know I just did that. But she talks about how stressed she was to the point where she wanted to commit suicide, and she felt like at that point it was time for her to leave, so she exited stage left. So after this man gets charged, this trial didn't the trial didn't begin until 6 years after he was charged. And it was like, why so long? Like, why? Yeah, that's a long time. So at this point, the girl is now grown. Stuff is a little hazy. Things are not fresh. That whole speedy trial situation didn't occur, nor did he fight to have a speedy trial because he was in the wrong. So at this time, jokes were being played because at this point, everybody has seen these tapes. And again, I didn't realize that it was 6 years. It took 6 years for it to go to trial. So I guess it makes sense when all these, parodies will come out in reference to him and his actions. And, kind of think about it. You don't think about it then, at least in my mind, I don't, because I've never seen, like I said, I've never seen it. But when Dave Chappelle was making these jokes, or if it was on Saturday Night Live that R. Kelly had pissed on people, blah, 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 you just got to think about it. At that time, they were making jokes about this grown dude doing the most on a 14-year-old. And how was this comical? So, yeah, that was pretty bad, Dave, if you think about that. So I already told you about how his brother, Kerry, got accused of being in the video, knowing that it wasn't him, didn't look nothing like him. So he decides to defend himself. When he comes out and defends himself, he kind of throws his brother under the bus and kind of confesses to everything that his brother was accused of doing. So, and he did say, I've heard him say it on other platforms, that he spoke out of turn. He spoke out of anger because he was being accused of something that he didn't do. So he just started talking. Yeah, no, I think that you meant everything that you said, but you did realize that was your brother and you shouldn't have said certain things to get him in trouble. But, it didn't do anything, but you tried. You tried. So Bruce had mentioned something, so I don't know if I heard this correctly, but I did wrote it down, that allegedly there was a payoff for $100,000 in a record deal. But I also heard R.Kelly talking about, a music career. So I guess he rapped at some point, and R. Kelly allegedly offered this to him for him to be quiet or at least take the hit for what was going on, and he refused to. So then Bruce mentions it in the documentary, and that, he's stupid. He could have been rich. Bruce is not a bright one either. Like, $100,000, my dude, is not money to be bragging about that you're rich on. That's a salary for a physician. Like, you just can't live off of that for the rest of your life. So the trial begins, and it's still a shocker that there were young girls outside of the courthouse cheering this dude on and supporting him. So this is where I feel like, again, the law wasn't really protecting the girls out there. So here you have this dude on trial for child pornography. There are young girls outside of the courthouse, and no one is keeping these young girls away. Like, scoot. No one's telling them to back up. No one's telling him to not talk to these young ladies or to come close to him. But there was one that was able to get so close to him that she became a victim. And here we meet Geronda. She was pro R. Kelly. In her words, I'm paraphrasing, but she ultimately says this, that she was a fan, but she also went to the trial faithfully because she wanted to know whether or not he really did those things. I don't know if I would have been that curious. There's an interview that she did with a YouTuber by the name of UNWINEWITHTASHAK. She goes into a lot of detail about her relationship with R. Kelly. I'm going to link Tasha K's video down in my description box. You guys got to see it. Tasha K has also done several videos on this whole R. Kelly foolery, and she was very thorough because she interviewed some people, got more information that Lifetime aired. So if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. Again, I will leave all that information down in my description box. So when she met R. Kelly, she was 14. And it was something that I had heard, I think it was on the Breakfast Club, where it was this one lady that had said, everybody's asking, like, where are the parents? And did your parent always know of the things that you did when you were a teenager, blah, blah, blah. No, you're right. That's a valid point. No, they didn't. But my thing is, how are you able to skip school on the regular basis to go to a trial and nobody knows? It's one thing when you skip school one day, but you're doing this regularly, and how your mom doesn't know, or your father, whoever is in charge of you, doesn't know that you're not present. So Sparkle, she speaks out on how his legal team tried to pay her off, but she didn't take the money. Good job. So they're showing little clips of the actual sex tape and the documentary, but they're zooming in so close to where you can see R. Kelly's face. I think that they did that on purpose, so then you can see that it was him. The fact that even if that Carrie was even a thought was like mad foul, which it was, like how you let your brother, catch the heat for you. But you could clearly see that it was that dude. And I know that Lifetime wanted you to see that it was that dude. So, the brother that Sparkle told about, the niece being in this video, he testified and denied that it was his niece on, in that video. So ultimately, that's what helped get R. Kelly acquitted. So Craig Williams, this is the one that I kept calling Marcus, the producer, made a statement saying that if it were white girls, R. Kelly would have went to jail. This is where I feel like I personally am missing the mark that everybody else is claiming. That includes you, Mr. Williams. You saw certain things go down. You, as a black man, didn't say anything. The young lady never said that she was in the video, so really can't accuse somebody, or so you can't prosecute someone if there's no accuser. And then they also paid, allegedly or suspected, that the parents were also paid off too. So there's no one to really, say he did anything. Everything was based on, speculations and allegations or assumptions. So what can you do with that? And everybody who witnessed him doing these things were black. They were black. So how did you contribute to the situation? What did you do to help? So you mad at the jury because they didn't find him guilty? Well, hell, if you would have said something earlier, maybe he would have went to jail. But what did you do? So after the trial is over, all is good. The girl is now grown. So I guess at this time she might be 20 years old. So it's like, whatever. So acquitted, over and done with, boom. So he does this interview with Torre. I don't know what platform he was on when maybe BET? I'm not really sure. But he did this interview with Torre, and the question that was asked was, do you like teenage girls? R. Kelly, his response was, when you say teenage, how old are we talking? 19? The fact that you have to get clarification on what do you mean by teenage, and this dude still has cheerleaders rocking for him, playing his music. This dude literally has given you clues, has been vocal about his illness, and yet he still has supporters, which is baffling to me yet again, because no one is really noticing his illness whatsoever. Nobody. So a year goes by, and Geronda was contacted by somebody from R. Kelly's team to invite her to a party. So a year later, at this point, she is now 15. And so the person who made that telephone call, like, someone needs to figure out if that person is still alive and well to make sure that he or she is on the list of people to, hem up later. Because if Geronda was 14 once the trial, a year later she is now 15. Now she's getting invited to this dude's house, and guess what happens next? So, and this is where I'm going to slightly side-eye Geronda a little bit. Again, I can't say this enough, that you have to kind of hold all parties involved somewhat responsible for their actions. You have the adults who didn't do anything, and when, again, and I said this in my first video, that even though you might have been a teenager, at this point, you know right from wrong. You really know right from wrong, or what you shouldn't do when you are a child, let alone a teenager. So this question goes out to you, Geronda. You went to the trial because you wanted to know whether or not this dude was guilty of what they were accusing him of. Okay, boom. He gets acquitted, so not guilty, so I guess he didn't do it, right? So I don't know whether or not she was able to enter the courtroom to see anything, but anywho. So here it is a year later, 15. So I don't know how old he is at this point. Old enough, in his 30s. So now you are 15 years old. You get an invite to go to this man's house, and nothing goes off, saying, well, damn, why would he ask me, a 15-year-old, to go to the house? It's not on no super fan stuff, because if an artist is very grateful for the support of his fans, I'm pretty sure that he would do it at a public place. And I'm pretty sure it just wouldn't be an invite for one individual. Like, a lot of people supported him, so why you? Okay, so she quotes, she said that he spoke to her through his music. And I still didn't understand her saying that. So if you think of R. Kelly lyrically, what is he ultimately, like, what does he talk about the most? So what was he saying lyrically that would move anybody, one, intellectually? Like, it'd be nowhere. He gives you that vibe that, let's get busy kind of situation. So that's how he was talking to you. And this is where I say that some of these victims, is like the certain things that you say, you're going to get side-eyed just a little bit, because when she said that, I looked at her like, well, what moved you? What moved you? What song touched your spirit? He spoke to you. I think every young lady, every girl, or maybe even dudes, I don't know, but I'm a woman, so I don't know what it's like. But as a teenager, when you listen to certain songs, or like certain artists, like Jodeci, those were my dudes when I was growing up. And lyrically, you kind of picture yourself being in a romantic kind of setting when you heard certain songs. So that makes sense to me. So if you're saying that as a teenage girl, yes, your hormones are moving just as quickly as boys are. So I think this is where the breakdown comes into play, because you put yourself in a compromising situation. And I can't say there's no other way, and not to victim shame, but we have to hold you accountable too, because I feel like that was also an indication that dude was a scumbucket when he invited you over there. But let's proceed. So, so let's backtrack a little bit. So as I'm reading further, when he asked how old she was, she said that she was 19, so she lied. So again, she has to be held accountable. She just does. She just does. Not blaming the other stuff, but the to the point she started off just being deceitful and doing things that she shouldn't have, that ultimately got her in a situation that she couldn't get herself out of. And we just have to be honest. Like, no one's sitting here trying to make anyone feel bad, but if you put it out here in the world to kind of pick apart, we can't, there's no way that we can skip over the things that were done initially to get to the point where we are currently, or what we are currently talking about. So somehow they got in a conversation about how he was sexually abused, and then she talked about how she was sexually abused. And this is where R.Kelly took advantage of that. There was the common ground of abuse. And so I'm not saying that all victims are like this and easily manipulated, but I think that was his entry into her heart, or at least his entry into molding her the way he wanted her to be, because there was a weakness. At least I'm thinking that that's probably how he processed it to get to where he is right now with her. So, he made a request that she had her bathing suit when she came over. And then while she's there, he asked her to model the bathing suit. And I feel like it's important, just to insert this, it is important that we teach our kids survival skills and how to conduct themselves in a situation where they might be presented with some, it might be, how would I present it, but be in a situation where it might be uncomfortable and someone's being sexually inappropriate, and how to act in a situation like that. Nobody wants to have a discussion like that, but how do you prep your kids without talking to them? You know what I mean? And she doesn't go into detail. No, she wrote a book. She doesn't go into detail on her previous sexual abuse and what discussions were had with her before, after, or whatever. So, I mean, that's up in the air. But now that this docuseries has made such an impact on everybody, I feel like it's very important to have this discussion now with our children about how to handle themselves if they find themselves in a situation like this. So she's modeling the swimsuit. Now he's asking her to remove the swimsuit piece by piece. And her response was, it's R.Kelly. So I had to do it. Whoever is watching this, regardless of, and I can't say this enough, and I don't know if I said it in my first video, regardless of the fame, it's not that deep. I don't care who is standing in front of you. First encounter, and someone's telling you to undress, and just because they're famous, you're going to go take it off? But that was her thought process. I'm not going to even pick that apart. That was her thought process, and she did it. Again, it didn't dawn on her that here I am, 15. He has shown her everything that she went to the courthouse to find out. And it's not sounding off in her mind that he is everything that he was accused of. So she talks about how she wasn't able to be on the phone. I guess whenever she misbehaved, he would starve her. So I'm questioning, was she ever a missing person? Like, how are you over this person's house at the age that you are and no one's looking for you? Like, how long are you gone to be starved by anybody? So now there's another girl, Dominique. I'm exhausted at watching this on TV. I am exhausted at this point. I was like, oh my God, there is another one. And it's not a laughing matter, but it's just like there were so many. And these are just people that they were on the documentary. Who knows? This man has traveled the entire world. Like, who knows how many girls and women, because it just wasn't teenage girls, because we've come to find out later on there were older women that went through all of this. Like, this is insane. But at this point, I'm mentally exhausted. I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. So Dominique was the next girl. Her mother jumps in the scene stating that, and her mother's name is Michelle. I can't remember what her mother's name is, but well, her last name, but her name is Michelle. And she jumps into the scene stating that she had no idea that Veronica and Dominique were involved with R.Kelly. So apparently, from what I can gather, or what I remember from the docuseries, that I guess Geronda was instructed, and I'm paraphrasing allegedly, because please don't quote me on this. Please go watch the docuseries to make sure that I'm right. But from what I can gather, that Geronda was instructed to find more girls, and so she knew a person, and she knew Dominique. So she gets all cozy with Dominique to kind of lure her into, R. Kelly's. So I guess, I don't know if she was either missing or something was going on, but nonetheless, mom got a call and someone told her that Dominique was involved with R. Kelly. So I guess at this point, her daughter was coming in and out, was coming home or whatever, and she approached her daughter and asked her daughter, like, is that true? Are you messing with R. Kelly? And she confirms. She asks for dude's number, and then she calls R. Kelly and she threatens him, like, listen, excuse me, I need you to know who I am and stay the F away from my daughter. Rightfully so. I would have done the same thing, if not worse. So I can't remember whether or not at this point Dominique runs away, but it's now June 14th, 2009, and the police head over to the house. I guess because Michelle had put a missing persons out, or called the police on R. Kelly, because at this point I don't think she was able to talk to her daughter, and at the age of 17. That's the age of consent. So there was nothing that the police could do if Dominique was in the house. And I can't remember whether or not Dominique was in the house, try to get her out, and she refused to, or whatever the case is. So yes, legally she was a minor, but if Dominique was okaying the fact that she was over there, didn't have no issues, there was really nothing the mother could do at this point, which is sad, but that's the law, I suppose. And that pretty much ends this episode. So we're down to the last we're down to the last two. Praise the Lord. But for my young ladies or young men that may come across this, I just want you to know that this is basically for you to kind of see that this could happen to you, and kind of keep your eyes open for the creeps, and how they'll sweet talk you and make you feel like no one's there for you, or try to find a common ground, sneak their way in to find your sweet spot so they can start manipulating you. And we just want to build you up. And also the survivors of this whole debacle, we want to uplift you to do good and to pay it forward, because people need to hear what occurred and prevent it from happening to somebody else. So yeah, so the episode ends here, and let me know if you've seen the series. Give me your opinions about what you thought about episodes 3 and 4. What were the things that stood out to you, and I have seen comments from my other video as far as how people are talking about their story, and I thank you so much for sharing what has occurred to you, because you don't have to share. It's not something that people want to talk about all the time, so I appreciate you sharing your story. And thank you so much for watching If you like to see videos like this from me, just speaking out on the things that I find near and dear to my heart, please give this video a thumbs up. Again, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want to connect with me on my social media platforms, please follow your girl on everything Thaliaseyecandy. That's on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram. And I will definitely catch you tomorrow going over episodes 5 and 6. God bless. Be safe. Be true to you. And yeah, I'll catch you with the next. Bye.